Sorry for that little interruption. Goodness,
Yeah.
that's what happens when you're recording live.
Now we're finding out.
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
drink the tea for that.
my mom, we had a similar story because my mom, with us five girls and my father being away overseas because my father was in the Navy, um, we experienced a lot of things together. And one of the things is our cycle. Now, when my oldest sister had started her cycle, my mother sat all of us down. Now, understand, I'm 5 years younger than my oldest sister. My sister, between my oldest sister and I, was 2 years between them. Then we have my sister just under me, who was like a year and a half, and then we had one who was all the way like 8 years from me. But
Wow.
when my oldest sister had her cycle, we all were sat down and told about our cycle. So me having my cycle wasn't a surprise. But what a surprise was what my mother did. When each of us had our cycle, she would never make us feel downtrodden about it because in the past, whenever a young girl would start her menstrual cycle, everybody'd be like, "Oh no, another one's on the rack. Oh my goodness, and we gotta lock her up." It made you feel like your cycle was like a death
Yeah.
sentence almost. And then there were the people who never told their children anything about their cycle, and they were terrified when it happened, or they had to learn from their girlfriends because their mothers didn't tell them anything. And a lot of these little girls thought they were dying or something, like something was wrong with them. I remember a young lady in school. Her name was Isabel. Isabel, when her cycle came on, she was sitting in the bathroom crying, and she wouldn't talk to anybody. She wouldn't tell anybody anything, and she wouldn't come out the bathroom. And my teacher looked at me and said, "Go in there and get Isabel." I said, "Okay." I'll go in. Isabel's crying. I said, "Isabel, what's the matter?" And she goes, "I'm bleeding. I'm dying." I'm like, "Isabel, you're not dying. What?" Now, understand, my cycle came on when I was about 8. So I knew what was going on. And I was like, "Isabel, that's the menstrual cycle. That's your body cleaning itself out." And how did I know? Because my mother explained it to us. And so when my cycle came on, I was probably the only girl in my class who had it, first of all, which was like, because I was so young. But my mother said to me, she said, "Oh, my big girl, I'm so proud of you. You're going to be a big girl." And she gave me this little packet that had a tea bag, some chocolate, the sanitary belt and all that stuff. And a pack of, back then is when they first started having the packs of like aspirin, had a pack of aspirin. We sat down and we had tea, and mom, reminded me that now I had to keep myself extra clean, that the cycle can be a little messy and that you'll have cramps and it's okay. If you have cramps, you let mommy know. She showed me how to do the hot water bottle. It was just, I just felt so loved and so special. I didn't feel ugly or terrible the way some of my friends did when their
Hmm.
cycles came on. And my mom taught me about tea. She said, "There's nothing better to soothe cramps and make you feel better than having a cup of tea."
It's true.
And when we had tea time with my mom and with my great grandma, it was a time for women to sit and talk about things that just had to do with us. Tea culture happened in Africa. A lot of people don't realize this, but tea culture happened in Africa long
Long time
before,
ago.
they talked about Chinese tea. And even though it was like the herbal teas, it was called infusions.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows anything about Morocco, in Morocco, the tea culture is a lot about men. And there's a whole tea ceremony that goes along with it. And you take the leaves, the mint leaves, and you put it inside the glass. The You crush them up, and you put the hot water in, and you pour it into another glass, and you may add some more hot water. And it takes a while to do this little tea ceremony, but it's a time for people to sit down and talk to each other and have fun together. Tea is never anything that you rush.
Can't rush tea.
Time, you let it steep. And the same thing with a lot of these conversations. My mother reserved tea, tea conversations for times when you had to have heart to hearts. So you wouldn't feel anxious or anything about it. It was a time for you to just sit and enjoy the aroma. And it was just a really special time. And that's why when my little girls, each one of them, they had their cycles, we made sure to do tea with them and to talk to them and for them to know how special it was. And I mean, it's difficult in days and times now because people are always in a rush and all that. But I think that these days are more important than ever to have those tea time. And now my daughter, first of all, I have to show you this teapot. You like it?
That's nice. That is nice.
Yeah. And here's a cup. I gave both my daughters the teapot with a cup. It looks like this. And this one's Mariah's, my youngest daughter. My oldest daughter, has a yellow one. And then Skylar, for her mom, for she and her mommy, they have little tea, a little teapot, and little cups that have a carp at the bottom. It's really cute. I have to show it to you next time. But starting tea and talk with especially with your young girls is really, really important. But I heard that Malachi has his own little tea.
He does. Let me tell you about Malachi. Malachi is my grandson. He's 7 years old. Action-packed. Runs from the time he gets up until the time he doesn't want to go to bed. He's like the Energizer Bunny. And he has 11 excuses why he don't want to go to bed. And tries to stall. He'll do things like, well, can I make just one more town out of my those blocks those Minecraft blocks? And I'll make one more town. Malachi, it's time to go to bed. We got to get up and do school in the morning. And you don't like to get up either. Well, Grandma, okay, well, let's do one more Once Upon a Time. You see, and when he's at my house, the ritual is, I have a lot of rituals. You take a bath, you put on your pajamas, you say your prayers, and you might have a story, and then you go to sleep. Now, that should make any child sleepy. He'll say, Grandma, one more Once Upon a Time, one more Once Upon a Time. Well, that means that I'm a storyteller, so I start telling him a story. And I might say, once upon a time, there was a little boy named Malachi, and he lived in the woods. And then I'll turn it to him and say, well, what do you got to say about that? And then he'll add part to his story. Now, most kids, you would think by the time the middle of the story, they'd be knocked out. Not my grandson. He won't do nothing. I don't know where he gets his energy. I wish I could bottle it. But he never wants to go to bed. He says, I have to sleep too long. Well, what's the next day going to be? Well, do I have to go to school tomorrow? He just does not like to go to bed. So his dad came up with a good idea and a new ritual for our family. He told Malachi, okay, get your pajamas on, but you don't have to go to bed right away. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to have tea time. He didn't know what that was. So his dad made this blend of tea, because Malachi likes tea because it makes him feel like he's grown up. And we sometimes give him berry tea. He likes the blueberry tea. So his dad put blueberry, chamomile, and lavender together. And I had some tea crackers. That time I used croissants, the little jelly croissants. Not good to give your kids to go to bed, but they're just little ones, and he had to feel special. And we all had our own mugs. This is my favorite mug. I use it all the time. My other sister gave it to me. It's got a lot of stuff about love in it. So we would sit to the table, make it really special, and we talk. It is important to talk. Tea just brings out the talk. And his father would say, well, Malachi, what was your best thing that happened to you today? What stood out for you? And then Malachi always has an answer. He'll talk about what he did today, what he built in Minecraft, and then he asked me something like, Grandma, do you know Siren Head is 50 feet tall and he doesn't have a face and he can break your ears by sounding his sirens? I said, that don't sound so good. He said, well, you know, like Minecraft. And he'll talk and we'll tell him something that we want him to learn for that day, or something about patience, or something about perseverance, and we'll talk. And chamomile and lavender are the sleep teas. See, I've studied teas now, so I know a lot about a lot of teas. So the chamomile and the lavender, after you talk a bit, your eyes start rolling in your head. You know that's the cue. We say, well, I think that's enough of tea time. Let's go to bed. And he hits that pillow and he's out like a light. He doesn't know the secret to the tea was the kind of tea that we gave him. And that's a good way to get unsleepy boys to be sleepy. Have tea time. It's fun.
Yeah. Really. And see, with our tea time, we would have I would always give my children chamomile tea. Even I used to give it to them in their bottles, believe it or not.
Well, that's a good idea.
Because it doesn't hurt them. It relaxes them. Because basically, with little children, the whole thing, the key is to getting them to relax, their minds to relax. Because understand that little children, they're developing and they repeat things over and over again because it takes you to repeat something over 3,000 times.
Wow.
To get into your head. That's why children are always repeating things. So they'll repeat things 10 million times. But my children crack me up because when you talk about rituals, my daughters and my husband have this ritual called Daddy Tea. I have to tell you about Daddy Tea. Now, Irma's heard this. That's why she's laughing. My two daughters will tell you that their father would give them tea for any occasion that they're heartbroken. If they're heartbroken, Daddy will ask them if they want a cup of tea. If they have cramps, Daddy will ask them if they want a cup of tea. They even said that if they went outside and broke their arm, their daddy would probably sit them down and ask them if they wanted a cup of tea. But what I loved about that is, my father was away a lot. And we didn't get a chance to build that special relationship like my daughters had with their father. My husband adores his daughters. He is a daddy. He's a daughter daddy, and he's really good about showing them that men nurture too. We have this societal thing that says that men aren't supposed to be loving and nurturing and caring. That's why when I first heard the story about Malachi's tea, I was like, it's so nice that it's carrying on to another generation. It makes me wish that my son was still here. I think if he had become a daddy, that's one of the things he would have done. Because boys and girls need to know that men are loving, men are caring. And even though men are strong and men are protectors, part of protection is being kind and being loving and being nurturing.
Yes.
So I think, for all our brothers out there who say, oh, well, this tea and stories can't be for me because I'm not a woman. It's not about that. It's about parenting and about showing children that you can develop rituals, first of all. And second of all, that those rituals can be nurturing and can be passed down through generations, changed a little, because like the tea party I used to have with my girls is nothing like the tea party that Amethyst has with Skylar. Amethyst and Skylar's tea parties are, they have the little sandwiches and all that stuff, but it's a time for Skylar to pretend to be a big girl
Oh,
on her fancy dress.
I forgot something that should be added to this. You mind if I just tell a little bit of this?
Okay, go ahead.
When I was growing up, like I said, I grew up in a small town in Maryland during segregation time. But I didn't know, what that meant when I was a little girl. Um, we, it was like a black Mayberry, if you can imagine that. That's what our town was like. Very small, everybody knew everybody. Everybody went to the same two churches, Baptist church and a Methodist church. And a lot of the social activities centered around the church. And I forgot we used to have teas at church. It was called tea and social. And that was a time when you could dress up a little bit, put on your little fancy black patent leather shoes and anklets and, your little pocketbook, little white gloves, and you come to tea in the afternoon. Sometimes it would be after church, although church was almost all day. Or sometimes it would be in the middle of the week on a Wednesday night or something, or even on a Saturday afternoon. And the women would bake cakes, homemade cakes. There would be cookies. There would be tea. And always in our churches, we had that red juice.
Oh, yes.
That red church juice. I'll never forget that when I was thinking about tea party. Now, those were tea parties, too, where it gave young people a chance to know, like, when you get in certain things, certain events, you wear certain things. It gave you time to dress up and look cute, and it gave you time to show your manners, your table manners and your manners to the adults. You always address them as Miss So-and-so or Mr. So-and-so. You always say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. You always said please and thank you. And those are things that kind of stay with you, even when you're older to this day. Yes, my dad is 98 this month, and I still treat him as if I'm 12. And he looks after me like that too. Call me every day. Are you all right, Punch? You all right? What's going on? You stay safe now. You need anything? Just like that. But tea and tea rituals played a big part in my life. Even like you were saying, in Africa, I went to Senegal. When the first time I went to Senegal, I was invited into the homes, and they would have this little teeny stool that you sit on, and this tea, I guess it was a special thing that they brewed it on because it was glass and you could see in it. And it was all kinds of like little black leaves and stuff. It looked like something that you wouldn't want to take. But it was an honor for you to come and take tea with them. These little mugs, and it was good. Now, one African tea is Rubio's tea. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I love Rubio's tea.
That. And the first time I had that, they gave it to us when we was going to Africa. But don't give all the credit to the English. We did tea. Matter of fact, we grew tea. We know what the real tea. A lot of teas today, like my sister said, is infusions, and they, but still you can get some good infusions, made out of this and that. I'm just a tea woman. Let me stop. Take it over. Go ahead.
Oh, that's okay, Sissy. Now, everybody, thank you so much for joining us for Tea and Stories. And my sister and I, we appreciate you joining us. And in 2 weeks, we'll have a new tea and story to share with you. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Yeah. Should I?
Okay.
I'll leave the meeting and call you on the